Hey everyone, this is the Love of Cinema podcast. We like to talk movies. If you like to talk movies too, you come to the right place.
But when I saw RRR, because I am a writer and I see movies through a particular lens, most Bollywood films when I watch, which are so magnanimous in their vision, so ambitious, I have somewhere observed that there's a huge difference in the way they must have been scripted versus what they eventually translate into. And when I watched RRR, after a long time, I felt that, okay, this is very close to what this guy must have put on paper, and the execution is almost perfect.
Hey everyone, this is Himanshu and you're listening to the Love of Cinema podcast. A very special episode today. Delighted to have longtime listeners of the pod join in to chat about some of the better films of 2022. Films that they loved watching on the big screen this year. But before moving on, as always, an important request to all the listeners of the podcast. If you enjoy organic conversations centered on Indian cinema, Love of Cinema podcast was created for people just like you. So do consider subscribing. Independent pods like this one don't have a platform for amplification and distribution. Independent pods rely on amplification through its listeners. So if you like the episode, and I can't harp on this enough, please share the episode on social media, because that's the only way people would discover the pod. So again, if you like the episode, please do share with your friends. Also, do take a minute to review and rate the podcast. That would be much appreciated and would help the pod. Back to today's episode. We got not one, not two, but three guests who will be joining me today. We have Sandeep Padhi, who's based out of Bangalore and whose passion outside of work revolves around watching, writing, and talking about cinema. Also joining us is Anirudh Somani, a chartered accountant and a contributor to The Can, who, in his words, can often be found pretending to read paperbacks and at the movies because he can't afford therapy. Again, his words. And we also have Amey Pandit joining us. Based in Mumbai, Amey is a copywriter by day and a passionate film buff and moviegoer by night. We had a blast talking about some of our faves from this year. And I realized that I should do this more often because I'm grateful to have listeners who are so passionate about films and bring along rich insights. And it's great to hear them talk movies. So note to self, do chats with listeners more often. And I will tweet out in advance when I plan the next one, so that if you would like to join in, you can drop me a DM and I will reach out to you. Anyways, here's our chat, talking some of the year's best films. Today we have three different people on the podcast as well. There is Sandeep Padhi, who has been on the podcast before, on the episode on Bachchan that we did a few months ago. There is Amey Pandit, who has joined us. And there is Anirudh Somani. Just to kind of set this up, so what I was thinking with this episode is that, I always get emails or messages saying that, people would like to hear what I thought about a particular movie in much more detail than just a tweet or something. And I usually don't do that because there's so many people who are already doing that. So, it's just like one more opinion out there. But sometimes I think, if I really feel strongly about some film, new film, then, I will do like a tweet thread. Like I felt about RRR. I really loved that movie. And so I thought, maybe I should do an episode on that. So I did do something like that before. But I thought in this episode, we'll just look at some of the films that, we liked. It doesn't have to be, critically acclaimed, or it doesn't have to be, big blockbusters or anything like that. But just some of the movies that we liked, we enjoyed watching this year, and we thought that there was something to it that's worth talking about. So that's what I had in mind about this episode. So, again, I thought that maybe, I should hand you guys the stage because I would love to listen to what you guys want to say about each of those movies. And then, I will also add a bit here and there about those movies, especially ones that maybe you haven't watched or something like that. So let me just go through the list of movies that I was thinking of covering. So the first one is definitely RRR. I think that's one of the biggest movies of the year. Jhund, that's also a good movie. Gangubai, which was again, probably one of the bigger hits this year. Kantara was good too. Then one Marathi movie I would like to talk about, that's Me Vasantrao. And this movie for me in many different ways is probably the movie of the year. And I will talk a little bit about that later on. But I don't know if all of you have seen this. I'm sure that Amey has. Am I
I
correct?
have, yes.
Right.
Yes, I
So
have.
Amey can also definitely add to this. Then we have Monica, Oh My Darling, which was a fun film. And then we'll also do Laal Singh Chaddha. I think Anirudh really loved that movie and wanted to talk about that. And Amey wanted to talk about Jersey. So we'll also talk about Jersey. And then in honorable mentions, I also wanted to touch on Toolsidas Jr. This was a small Netflix film. I think it was produced by Ashutosh Gowarikar. And it's
Yes,
based on a
yes.
real story, which really touched my heart. So, I really like that film. And I think that deserves a bigger audience than the number of people that have seen that film. So we'll also touch on that. So why don't we start with RRR? And guys, why don't you take it away first? And there's so much that's already been said about this. But why do you think RRR is such a massive success that it has become now?
So when you requested for a list of films that we'd like to talk about, I knew how big a fan you are of RRR, so I knew someone would definitely talk about it. So RRR का ऐसा था scene. I did not like the trailer at all, and RRR is the only movie that I've went twice to watch it in the theater, and I loved it so much. And I was like, a lot of folks around me did not like the movie for many reasons, and I don't know, but RRR completely surprised me when I was watching the movie. There were these big stunt action scenes which caught me by surprise, especially the interval block. वो जब बाहर कूदते हैं, and I was like blown away. I was not at all expecting कि I'll see something different, something new. Everything about the movie was like, I don't know, it was massively entertaining, and it surprised me the way the movie was presented and the things were happening on the screen at that time, because I wasn't expecting anything out of it. I thought Bahubali se better kya hi hoga, and then happened RRR.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he definitely exceeded expectations, Rajamouli, and that's one of the things that's so great about him. And, like I said, we did an episode on RRR. So a lot of the stuff that I'm going to say, I probably have said on that episode, but I'll just reiterate one more time, why Rajamouli stands out in terms of other directors, or why he is getting one step closer to breaking through in terms of, international audiences. I think the reason behind that is that, he always does his own stuff. I mean, like rarely, it ever feels derivative, especially when it comes to like VFX heavy movies, which is what Rajamouli has been doing, of late. And his visual effects always feel bespoke. They always feel like they're consistent in his style of characterization, his style of narrative. And the intermission action set piece is just one, glaring example of that, like you said, Anirudh. I mean, it's such a Rajamouli thing that, that's why I think the payoff is so much more, because you half expect something from Rajamouli like that. And when he actually delivers that, it blows you away. Because you have been expecting that. But even after that expectation, it's something that you probably did not think about. I'm not saying that nobody saw it coming or something. Probably some people did. But I think that's what Rajamouli does. And one more thing I would like to add in terms of RRR is that, if you think about the movie as a whole, right, it's essentially a genre smashing movie, right? I mean, it is historical fiction. There is bromance in there. There is fantasy. You could call it an action adventure. And what Rajamouli has done is that he has taken like two real life freedom fighters and made this huge fantasy anti-colonial action adventure. And for me, it's like, it's, I've said this before on the podcast and in one of my tweets too. It was essentially like watching Hobbs and Shaw on steroids. Because it's like crazy, and it's not everybody's cup of tea. So I understand people, who did not like RRR, who were not big fans, but I enjoyed it. I mean, this is the kind of big screen movie that I love to watch it. And I've seen RRR now 2 times in theaters as well. And I've seen it multiple times on Netflix. But that's the whole appeal of RRR. And I think, again, I could go on, but let me bring in
It also has the
and
best dance anthem of the year, or probably in the longest time.
definitely, without a doubt. Sandeep and Amey, do you want to chime in?
So two parts to it. One is that see, the reaction to RRR is very different for two sets of people. One who have suddenly woken up to the phenomena that Rajamouli is, and the other is like, I consider myself a core hardcore Telugu film viewer as well, because I've been watching it from childhood. So we watched when Student Number One came out, and then Sai, and the person is crazy in a very positive way, because in a mainstream Telugu film, or Indian film for that matter, any language, you would not have a game like rugby put in. Okay, and he made a big hit at that time in his movie Sai, right? So when I watched it, that was my moment of surprise that this man can do anything, because football you can still assume that football could be put in there, but he put a physical game like rugby, which people don't understand, and we were just shocked seeing rugby game there. So RRR is definitely not my favorite Rajamouli film. It would still be Bahubali or Maryada Ramanna before that. They are better films in my opinion, but this is a visual spectacle. Like, I remember messaging a friend during the interval, right after the interval scene, which all of us were blown about, because that's some crazy conception itself. Forget the execution, but just to imagine that this will happen and it can be projected takes a lot. So I don't know what is there going on in his mind. So I just came out and I messaged my friend this during the interval that I hope Marvel just throws like 10,000 crores at this guy and says, you take care of the universe, you do the next phase of Marvel, do whatever you want, here's 10,000 crores. Because if you look at now Marvel has set the VFX game and all of that, but there is something you can see that is like a template all through. This man comes with a very unique and weird vision, again, weird in a positive way. He can take that universe, I don't know what he would do with it, because of that thought process that he has, which is also why I think that he's never going to do a Marvel film like that. He's going to do films. He's very convinced about films being set in India, in the milieu that because it's more Amar Chitra Katha than Marvel, which is a good thing, because nobody explores the Amar Chitra Katha kind of universe, right? So that is crazy. That is the execution part. And the second thing is, like you mentioned, Hobbs and Shaw on steroids. For me, it is like Rajamouli taking the 70s Bachchan, Shashi Kapoor films, or if I talk about Telugu, then NTR and ANR films. There used to be a lot of those multi-stars in the 70s. And he had just infused it with these grand visuals. But the core is the same. The bromance, the fighting against the villain, heroes. First, the confrontation between the two heroes, and then both of them together fighting against the villain. Is the Salim Javed template. It's pure masala mainstream. So that is the reason for the success, and which is why the West, I feel, is going crazy for us. Even for all of us who are aware of the masala film template, it's this, right? You can put a logic to it that this is what 70s template is and this is what he has done. For them, they're not understanding the template. They've just gone crazy that, okay, this is something that can be shown on screen. So it is that kind of a surprise. Probably the closest could be like when the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon won the Oscars, when the West completely lost their head about this thing coming out of Asia. It's something similar happening. I'm glad it's happening though.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a quick bit about the Marvel bit before Amey, I let you chime in on this. But, I think there is going to be immense pressure on him. I can just see, things, the cookie crumbling that way. So, but like you said, I don't think he's going to do that anytime soon. but eventually he's going to be, talked into it. And especially if his next film is such a big success internationally, which now the stage has been set for that, because now he is going to have all those channels open, and it's going to be presented in a certain way and everything. So if that happens, I certainly think that the Marvel thing is coming. It might be later than sooner, but it's coming. So that's exciting. And I myself am not a huge Marvel fan, but those movies are the movies that is keeping the industry alive. I mean, we need to realize that. So it doesn't matter whether I like those films or not. We need to realize what the reality is. So it's going to be interesting. So we'll wait and watch. Amey, what did you? Yeah, go ahead, Anirudh.
So I just wanted to ask Sandeep, since he's a Telugu movie buff. But do you think, Sandeep, that Rajamouli will work with any other Indian actor apart from Telugu actors if he's making a movie out of India? Because I think so. His next is also with Mahesh Babu, right? It's been confirmed.
So he's gonna stick to his guns. Right after Magadhira, he did a small film like Maryada Ramanna. Now, when people want him to go international, he's going with Mahesh Babu. This is going to be a James Bond kind of a globe-trotting thriller. He's going to stick to his gun because he knows that he is the brand. He can take any actor he wants. Now I don't think he's going to fall into this casting particular actors from Hindi maybe, or I don't think he'll do that unless for his dream project, which is Mahabharat. And whenever he makes, and I do hope he makes it, that is when he'll go for a pan-India casting in that way. Otherwise, I don't think he will.
So we won't see like an Atli SRK, say Rajamouli Salman or Rajamouli Amey kind of a combination.
Because he first makes movie for Telugu audience.
Right.
Which is a good thing about it.
Yeah.
So I hope he maintains that, because like Rakshit Sethi said, right, the more rooted you go, the more universal it gets, and it's working for him. So I think he's not going to leave that market, and I hope he doesn't, because we don't know if he changes that, and if he does something in the pressure of the money bags, then you never know what's going to happen. Many good directors have fallen to it.
But is Rajamouli the bigger star now than any other superstar actors right now in Telugu cinema? So
I doubt that.
Will the guys
really,
come
Sandeep,
to theaters for a Rajamouli movie if he probably casts, say, Amey, Salman, XYZ, any other Indian
I see. You're saying if he casts different... Okay.
In Andhra and Telangana.
I don't think so, because it will not be a Telugu film. See, RRR is a Telugu film. It's dubbed in other languages. Telugu audiences, they love Rajamouli. First of all, I'm not a Telugu guy. I speak the language, just like I speak Kannada and I've been watching, but I come from Odisha. But I've seen this fandom. We have been part of that fandom. They have a very core fan following for their stars, but Rajamouli is also one of those stars now. But if it is not a hardcore Telugu film first and then dubbed in other languages, I am not very sure how the reaction will be. I can't say for sure that it will not be the same but I have my doubts. I think he would continue to make a Telugu film first and then take it everywhere else.
So I think, like Sandeep said, even I don't think that RRR would be my favorite Rajamouli film. I think that he has made better films. But when I saw RRR, because I am a writer and I see movies through a particular lens, most Bollywood films when I watch, which are so magnanimous in their vision, so ambitious, I have somewhere observed that there's a huge difference in the way they must have been scripted versus what they eventually translate into. And when I watched RRR, after a long time, I felt that, okay, this is very close to what this guy must have put on paper, and the execution is almost perfect. It may not be 100% perfect, but it has not been compromised into. The hard work is evident, and there haven't been like it is. Not one scene seems like it is there just because it had to be. Everything has a meaning, and just the sheer vision of the guy that is so there. but the way he executes the idea, like having an idea is one thing, but if one is able to execute it in that way, then I think that is what is commendable. And of course, the brilliant scene where all the animals get free from the cage. I think that was these two things blew me away in the movie.
Yeah, I think we should move on from RRR. But just to wrap it up, I mean, the thing about RRR, and I would just like to give an example is the climax action set piece, right? I mean, it's for someone like me who loves action movies, and I'm a big fan of like 80s and 90s action films as well. So for someone like me, it's like watching a mashup of Ramayana with an 80s, Vietnam War action drama. And you can imagine how cool that must be. And it's cool, but it's not just cool. It's essentially it makes you think like, what are the limits? I mean, there are the limits, right? I mean, in terms of imagination, in terms of making an action drama, you can really push the envelope in a certain direction, but you can push it in all directions. And then it's like crazy. I mean, that universe can just go, the sky's the limit. Rajamouli does that, and RRR and the final action set piece is a good example of that. Those kind of things, usually have the kind of blow you away effect. And I think that's what they did in the West as well. I think some of the critics were familiar with Iga. Some of them, knew about Bahubali. But with RRR, I think it really meant, went to the critical mass. It hit the critical weight, so to speak. So that's RRR. So, definitely one of the biggest films of the year. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people with the number of nominations it garners. I don't know how many how many awards it might end up winning, but I think it's going to surprise people. So let's see what happens. You never know.
So Anurag Kashyap said in an interview, right? So if it would have been an official entry for India, there's a 99% chance that it would have at least got a nomination, or Mr. Rajamouli would have got a nomination. I think so. It's leading there. At least what we see is happening on Twitter, and the West is just going bonkers.
Yes. I don't know. I mean, it like Sandeep was saying, we don't know. This could be this year's, Crouching Tiger. Who knows? I mean, if that's the case.
Do you really think that movie can win an Oscar? Like, is there? Is it?
I think so. I think so, man. Because the Oscar voting is and the lobbying is a completely different game. So I don't know how it's going to pan out. But one thing we do know about the nominations is that it usually starts gaining critical mass as all these kind of awards start coming out, like the LA, Film Critics Circle, New York Film Critics Circle. And so Rajamouli winning the best director at that award is a huge thing. And many would argue that, okay, now it's pointing in a certain direction. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but it certainly is pointing in that direction. And I'm thinking that at least he might garner a couple of nominations. Let's see. Predictions are dime a dozen, so I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised at all. So, I mean, it would be no surprise, even if he ends up winning Best Director. So it would be a no surprise to me. So, guys, which one do you want to do next? Shall we do Jhund? Shall we do Gangubai? Which one should we do next?
Gangubai.
Let's go with Gangubai. Who wants to go first?
So I think Gangubai is my favorite movie of the year. I think that it has been my favorite, and for many reasons. First of all, Sanjay Bansali sir's direction and the dialogues were also written by one of my favorite writers, Pankaj Kapadia. So I think, and plus Alia Bhatt's acting that added, and the entire team came together so beautifully with that. And one sort of song in particular that which really struck me. So in the emotional bracket, there are like 9 main emotions that an actor portrays, which are the real emotions of bravery, sadness, happiness, joy, grief, disgust, all of that 9 emotions. So there was this song called Meri Jaan in Gangubai, which has been completely filmed in the backseat of a car. And there's this Alia Bhatt and that guy Shantanu, and both of them are there. And it's a short song. It's a 2-minute song. But in those 2 minutes, I think Alia, at a switch of a button, she changed and managed to portray almost all those nine emotions in just 2 minutes. And I thought that that was splendid. That was something amazing. And the way the entire film was written, it didn't feel like, despite it being a biopic, it didn't feel like there was something missing or there was something else that could be added, like what happens in many biopics. I think before Gangubai, it was Ani Dr. Kashinath Ganekar, a biopic again, which hit me at that scale. But this was, I think, something which uh, came very close to that film, and that is why. And plus the dialogues, the way they are written, the way the scenes are crafted, the in some of the scenes there is a lot of things that are going on in the background as well, with the things that are happening in the forefront, and there's a lot of depth that is there added to every scene. So I think all these things, and also there was a social message that was given. That there's one scene in which there's one school principal and Alia Bhatt's conversation, that why is there a brothel besides our school? The brothel might have a bad effect on the school. And she responds saying that, but why can't the school have a good effect on the brothel? Why can't it be the other way around? So small moments like these, which came together to form a 2.5 year, 2.5 hour film, which I thought was like brilliantly done and extremely well made. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, I like the film too. I looked at Gangubai essentially as Alia's first star vehicle. Because she is now essentially a superstar, and just how good is she? I mean, she has, for my money, outgunned someone like Vijay Raz in her scenes with him. So it's how good. That's how good she was. And it's interesting. Like I've always liked Alia. Even I think since Highway. And some time back, I wrote in a small blog of mine that nobody read, that after watching Udta Punjab, that I think once all has been said and done over the years, when we look back, I think Alia Bhatt just could be GOAT. She could be the greatest of all time. So this particular movie and her movies since then have been small kind of baby steps towards that destination, if you ask me. Obviously it's too early to say anything like that, but I just think that she's an incredible actor, and she has just achieved so much at this age. I mean, you can only imagine what she's going to do in the future. The soundtrack is great too. I absolutely love the soundtrack. It's very derivative, but that's how usually SLB's soundtracks are. Even the ones for which he hasn't composed the music. But it's nice. I mean, it's derivative, but they're like soaked in homage. So that particular Niti Mohan song is my favorite as well. And I think that particular song stands out again because I think the homage kind of leads the derivative bit there. So I really love that song. And what did you guys think about the film, Anirudh and Sandeep?
So even the role of Gangubai, I felt that it wasn't something that was tailor-made for Alia. I mean, if you think about Gangubai Kathiawadi, you might vision someone like Kareena Kapoor or Vidya Balan playing it. But to having cast Alia Bhatt is one thing, and the way she did justice to the role, that was also, I think, commendable and
definitely, yeah.
So yeah,
wasn't there talk about this? And you guys might know this, but wasn't Priyanka supposed to do this like a few years ago? And then I think it was conceptualized with her in mind, but then I think it went to Ali or something like that. But yeah, she was superb.
Right.
So I love the movie actually, and I'm glad it did the numbers what it did. And to be honest, Alia is currently the biggest superstar right now we have in our country.
No doubt.
The kind of movies that she's done this calendar year as well as in the last 3 years, and the numbers those movies have done. So So, this movie, I read it somewhere, like the movie is owned by Alia, controlled by Bansali, and is driven by Indian cinema. The template, the narrative, how it flows, बहुत ही entertaining था as a viewer. So I don't know the know-hows of how movie making is done. I'm just a normal viewer. And in the end, as the last lines rightly conclude, Gangu heroine बनने आई थी, cinema बन गई, and that is what I felt. And most importantly, all the supporting actors, Vijay Ras, Seema Pava, Jim Saraf, everyone did well. But for me, actually, it was all about Ajay Devgan. I could just see him in that old Sultan Mirza vibe, and I was blown away because
Yeah, I
Sultan
loved
Mirza
him too.
for me, I think so. He's probably the best Don in the last 28, 30 years that I've seen or I've watched movies. Whatever people may say about Satya XYZ, but the kind of vibe that I got from Sultan Mirza, it was that vibe I got from Rahim Lala as well. And uh, so I really loved him. And I think so. This year is also about Ajay Devgan. He has had some great cameos, Gangubai, RRR, then some great movies also. Some did well, some are doing spectacularly well, some did not. So obviously, for Sultan Mirza all the way, Rahim Lala all the way, I
What was
loved it.
Devgan's biggest film this year? Was it Runway? Or...
Drishyam 2. Drishyam
Oh,
2.
Drishyam. Oh, yeah, right now. Yes.
This year, again, when we talk about the big six, this year is of Ajay Devgan, if I have to put it. But solid movie, and obviously you guys have spoke about the music and all, so that's nothing. And obviously the dialogues that Alia got, they were clap worthy. I genuinely don't remember that मैं कोई हीरोइन के बहुत कम हीरोइन के dialogues. The last I remember is of Vidya Balan, in her movies that I probably applaud or clap. And these were this movie I pooted for her, and I really enjoyed it. Solid masala entertainer.
I liked Alia in the film. I'll say that for me, it's a very key milestone in the journey of a person who was launched to be a star, who then consciously took the decision and worked hard towards becoming an actor.
Great point.
And Gangubai Kathiawadi is just the meeting together of the star and the actor being at the same level. And Bansali gave her that kind of a stage where right from her intro scene, that's a masala film hero entry scene, which we don't give to our female actresses. And there have been a lot of star actors in Hindi cinema, but there have been very few star actresses in that way. I mean, an actress who's known for her acting skill and a superstar at the same time. And in that regard, Alia is just right there, and Gangubai is a testament to that. Uh, Other than that, though, the film didn't work for me. And that there is biopic, then there is clear creative liberty, and then there is fantasy. So Gangubai quoting Sahir Ludhianvi to Jawaharlal Nehru saying "Jine naaze hind par kahan hai," that just got my goat. I mean, no, please. Uh, and overall, the sanitization of the area that Kamatipura is,
That's absolutely debatable. Yeah.
Aesthetics make good frames and all, but aesthetics should not be used to camouflage reality. That just didn't cut for me. But Alia's performance, brilliant, just brilliant.
But when I think so, if a director doesn't do that, then it would have turned out to be like a Madhur Bhandarkar film, which is probably not visually appealing for a lot of folks who just want to have a good time. Sanjay Leela Bansali, like my mother says, अच्छा बंसाली की पिक्चर है, मुझे पता है कि सेट्स अच्छे रहेंगे, विजुअल्स अच्छे रहेंगे. मेरी मम्मी दो डायरेक्टर के बारे में बात करती है, एक डेविड धवन और एक संजय बंसाली. शी रिकॉग्नाइजेस डेविड धवन, कॉमेडी डन, we'll have a good time. Sanjay Leela Bansali, good sets, good visuals, heroines are top notch, XYZ. So probably they also have to, I think so, play that game.
Admirable traits when you are making fiction, but the moment you get closer to reality and it is based on someone, and Kamatipura is a real area, right?
Right.
Because you are, my problem here is you are then negating the struggles and the very existence of a huge group of people who come from there. It's not all hunky dory and white, right? Just that. But then, I mean, I know why it worked for the masses or why it would work for a lot of people, but this is my personal pet peeve with it, that I don't like reality being camouflaged that way.
Yeah, the
Right,
one
right.
thing the one problem I've always had with SLB, he's a great director, and there's no doubt about that. But the liberties that he takes with history, and at the same time, he takes the actual name of the person, right? So, for example, in Bajirao Mastani, I mean, he could have made a film that was modeled on that relationship, but he could have called it something else. But if he's going to call it Bajirao Mastani, then it has to be true to those real historical figures. And he rarely does that. So I think that's the same thing with Gangubai as well. But he has complete liberty in terms of basing it on those characters and doing anything he wants. But then he cannot actually use their real names. So that's one thing that I've always mentioned in my criticism of SLB. But there's so many things that he does well that I think he gets a pass for that because of that.
But before moving on to the next, please, I just want to put it out in the universe. Ajay Devgan को ऐसे roles करने चाहिए. Please करो यार.
Yeah, definitely. He was great. And man, Once Upon a Time in Mumbai is just a great film. And
Even Company.
Yeah, Company.
Company, yes,
Yeah.
Company.
Company is like my favorite Ajay Devgan movie. The kind of one-liners that he has throughout the film.
Yeah. I just tweeted out a few days ago that I think now Company is my favorite film.
Yeah,
RGV film ahead of Satya. But moving on, guys, let's talk about Jhund. This was a film that I had been looking forward to. I love Nagaraj Manjule's films. And a fan of Bachchan as well. But who wants to go first on Jhund? I don't want to hog the mic here. So anybody wants to go first?
Himanshu, from our last podcast as well, I'm both of us are huge Bachchan fans. So I did not mention that film in my list because it came down to three, but Jhund was a film I was looking forward to. And it did not disappoint me as a Nagaraj Manjule and Bachchan coming together film. If I look at it as purely Nagaraj Manjule film, then of course I was a little underwhelmed because Sairat, Fanry, you start expecting more. But this is again like how we spoke about Khaki being, an older Vijay from Zanjeer. This is a similar character, and he's not physical. He doesn't beat up people, but the intensity in his eyes, and when he stands up to those kids, he doesn't need to move a muscle. That intensity is still there. That Zanjeer Agnipath wala intensity is still there, and these are the roles like. I would like him to do more and more because man at 80 has still got that intensity, and you are using that powerful voice on screen, and that entire persona to talk about something that is very important in the bigger picture. Nagaraj Manjule talks about a certain section. He talks about caste. He talks about people who have been oppressed by society, and what more powerful voice than Bachchan to talk about them? So yeah, it did work for me. It was like Paranjit coming together with Rajnikant, using Rajnikant's voice to say the things that he wanted to in Kabali and Kala. Kala is something I like better than Kabali, but it is something similar here where Nagaraj Manjule uses Bachchan and his on-screen persona to communicate it. And just the visuals as well. You could see the color blue used all through the film, and it's not even in the face. It just fits in with the environment. He's liberal with that. He has shown that, and the cast, the entire team that he has picked up as part of the Jhund, they're just brilliant. That entire supporting cast of Jhund, and they're not even supporting. They're so, since the film is named Jhund, they are central to it, and I loved it. And even Nagaraj Manjule has like he uses Bachchan in the foreground when he wants him to take the spotlight. He's given him the spotlight, and very seamlessly, Bachchan also recedes into the background when the Jhund have they need to voice out their problems, their concerns, right? So yeah, I hope it. I mean, I wish it got better love than it got in the theaters, but it was a worthy attempt by Nagaraj Manjule. We hope we see other people also casting Bachchan in these roles rather than someone just sobbing about his wife and children. Uh, more power to these kind of roles.
Yeah, absolutely. I differ a little bit from you, Sandeep, in terms of how Bachchan is presented. But the two things I really loved about Jhund. Number one, it's a story about the underrepresented, the invisible. But the thing that stands out in Manjule's way of presenting that or projecting that is that he has done that without any grandstanding. He's not, there aren't really huge like long speeches. There isn't any grandstanding of that sort. So that's what I really dug about the film. And going back to the way that Bachchan is presented, I thought that he actually strips away Bachchan's stardom like furiously. I mean, it's just like presenting him in a completely stripped down version as a star. But almost every moment in the film where Bachchan's Vijay, could have gone vintage Vijay, like vintage Salim Javed Vijay, has been consciously kind of dialed back, to ensure the focus remains on the core of the film, which is the kids. And, whether it's his intro scene, whether it's his retirement speech, whether it's the scene in the courtroom, every place where he could have gone on a soapbox, the character Vijay, that has been held back, that has been restrained. And it's interesting here that a little subversion that Manjule does, that is the introduction of the character Ankush. He's also called Don, I think, in the film. And his introductory scene, that's like full of swag. And that's like a callback to the Bachchan of the old. That's like a callback to the Bachchan of the 70s. And so this little subversion that he does, with Bachchan in that film is pretty interesting to watch. And even the scene of Vijay's retirement speech, it's like set up in a grand style. There is a stage, he's on top of the stage. And it kind of baits you into thinking that, okay, now there is going to be a huge vintage Bachchan moment, where he's going to essentially give you a long speech in a deep baritone. And you fully expect that. But he barely says anything. And I think the only thing that he says is thank you. So, these kind of little things, they really worked for me because this was what I was expecting when I heard the news that Manjule and Bachchan are coming together. I was taken a little aback when T-Series got into the picture because I thought, okay, now it's going to go out of the hand. But that never happened. And it was pretty cool to see, a Bachchan whose sentences are short, they're underdrafted, they're very to the point. And it's in total contrast to the heavily scripted, heavily directed vintage Bachchan of 70s and 80s. So that for me was really cool. And, I thought I was also happy because Manjule got a chance to do his fanboy moment, with Bachchan, because he has mentioned in many of his interviews, like pretty much anybody of his generation, they all grew up watching Bachchan's films. But, he wanted to do something with Bachchan that was consistent with his style, with, his style of working. And I was just glad that he got a chance to do that. What else about the movie I liked was that the magnificent background score. I mean, oh God, I just loved that background score. I think it was done by, let me see, Saket Kanetkar, if I'm not mistaken. But he did a great job. And the background music of that movie is just great. I wish that they had released a jukebox of that. But it's great and it adds to the whole raw vibe, the whole raw energy of the film. So that's definitely worth mentioning. So I really loved Jhund. I was expecting this film to be good. It was good. So it's always a happy moment for a fanboy or a cinephile to go into a movie expecting something special and get that. So I really loved Jhund. Like Sandeep, you said, I do wish more people had seen this movie. I don't think it did that well. Anirudh probably knows the numbers, but I don't think it was received that well in theaters. Did it do well on OTT? Do you have any insight, Anirudh?
No, with respect to OTT also, I don't think so. Jhund did that well. And the box office, I think so, it netted at around 30 crores. So I'm not sure if that's a good number or not. But yeah, so for me, Jhund was not about Bachchan. So as Anurag Kashyap mentioned in his letterbox review of Jhund, it was a smack in the gut. For a privileged guy like me, I, exposure to caste system or even watching about caste system was it came later in my life when I started reading a lot of stuff, and I never uh, thought about caste system, or it was portrayed in the mainstream cinema in a way that made me think about it or dive deep into it. So as I started reading about a lot of stuff about the past of India and why B.R. Ambedkar specifically is what he is for the Ambedkarites and the marginalized people out there. Uh, so the movie actually moved me a lot, and I clearly remember the airport scene. वो जब हो रहा था ना, I felt for the character, and the movie,
Yeah, that
unlike
hits you.
Fandry and Sairat, this movie you keep expecting कि अरे अभी कुछ गलत होगा, but कुछ गलत होता ही नहीं है. Like उधर क्या हमेशा that movie was filled with hate and violence, and something wrong used to happen whenever you think ना कि अरे अभी ये लोग के साथ कुछ गलत हो जाएगा, कुछ तो अटक जाएगा, ये लोग शायद फुटबॉल मैच नहीं खेल पाएंगे, कोई इंजर्ड, वो होता ही नहीं है. और लास्ट मोमेंट पे भी जब एयरपोर्ट सीन में हो रहा होता है ना, you start feeling for that man, and I'm sure everyone who watched that movie started feeling for Ankush, but कुछ गलत नहीं होता, राइट. बहुत ही सही एक्सपीरियंस था. मुझे पता नहीं था कि नागपुर में एक इतना बड़ा एरिया है जहाँ पे इतने अम्बेडकराइट्स रहते हैं. सो फॉर मी सिनेमा हैज आई हैव नेवर बीन टू फिफ्थ एवेन्यू, बट आई नो फिफ्थ एवेन्यू बिकॉज आई हैव सीन मूवीज. उधर है कोई जगह है. वैसे नागपुर में ये जगह मुझे क्यों पता चली, क्योंकि मैंने ये पिक्चर देखी है. ऐसा नहीं है पिक्चर पहले मुझे पता थी. सो इट वॉज अ काइंड ऑफ लर्निंग एक्सपीरियंस एंड एन एक्सपीरियंस. एंड how Ambedkar Jayanti is celebrated. No one has showcased that, but in that song, the way they were celebrating it, and I read a piece of, I think so, Anurag minus Verma, and he aptly quotes, that the song ends with Bachchan bowing down to Ambedkar, and that was the time when the real life angry young man was finally paying homage to the OG angry young man of India. you know so solid movie, solid stuff. And again, I felt bad. See, I like a movie and I want it to do well, and I think so it was a very good movie. ऐसा नहीं, मुझे बहुत सी पिक्चरें पसंद आती है. I like a lot of random stuff, but this was a genuinely good movie which a lot of folks liked. I think so it should do well. And then a lot of people come out and complain ना, हिंदी सिनेमा में ये होता है, सिनेमा में पिक्चर अच्छी नहीं बन रही है, तो भैया तुम जाओ थिएटर में देख लो, तो बनेगी फिर पिक्चर है, वरना अभी फ्रेंचाइजी और सीक्वल्स ही देखते रहना फिर.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I think most of the points have been covered by you all. But for me, this Jhund was a very special film because I am from Nagpur and I've
Oh, okay.
spent my childhood in Nagpur. So even though, of course, I have been brought up in a very privileged background, but there's stuff that you do when you're young, and when you see a movie that is based on your city, you kind of relate to most of the things that you have done in your childhood as a child, just because you were so dumb during those days. You just didn't have the intelligence or the intellect, but you just kept on doing things. And especially the Ankush character, like even Sandeep, and he felt a lot for that character because he deserves he deserved to be at a certain place, but somehow he kept taking the bad decisions, and it was like a rolling stone that kept on going. So that was one relatability factor. And again, Jhund, more than Mr. Bachchan, it was for me about the entire cast. Because in most of the scenes, like Bachchan Saab is a legend and has always been, but for someone so young to stand up in front of him and share a screen space and not get intimidated, plus give a good performance. I think kudos to the director as well and kudos to those guys as well who did a commendable job in front of such a great actor. So I think the whole character arc that these guys had, the entire Jhund had, that from being good for nothing kids to finally making their place in life. I think when a story like when one watches a story like that, you keep yourself in that place and you want those things to happen with you because we all somewhere feel that we are invisible in this world and we want to make our mark. So in some way, that film brought that out aspect for me. So I think I really splendid film.
Yes,
And
yes, yeah.
Himanshu, so one more thing. So Nagraj also tries to answer a lot of questions which the upper caste or probably the privileged lot have about, these folks. Like, for example, there was this one scene I clearly remember, and I connected it to the documentary that I watched. The documentary was by Anand Patwardhan. It was called Comrade. And, in Dadar area of Mumbai, tomorrow being December 6th, the death anniversary of Ambedkar, there is a huge procession. People just flong on the roads. They walk. So a lot of those folks or the residents of those areas, used to call it a nuisance. They still call it a nuisance. And Nagraj Manjule talks about that in the film. I clearly don't remember, but one character, or I think so, Bachchan only says कि ये लोग by nature ऐसे नहीं है. Unfortunately, the situation which they are in makes them do all this stuff, which uh, probably becomes a nuisance for others. So when I was watching that scene, I was thinking from that point of view कि अरे वो रेसिडेंट्स को परेशानी हो रही है, तो वो हो रही है, वो अक्नॉलेज कर रहे हैं, ऐसा नहीं वो अक्नॉलेज नहीं कर रहा है नागराज, बट उसके पीछे वो भी दे रहा है कि because of the situation, or say probably how they've been brought up, or how where they are based out of the kind of situation there. So there were a lot of answers that you get from their vantage point as to why is this happening and why do they do or whatever it is,
Right, right. And the great thing about Manjula is that he does all this, without kind of shoving it down your throat. He says a lot of things by barely saying things. And that's why he's a great director. And I think that's why it also connects with people. That's why it also stands out. So that was Jhund, a great film. Guys, if you haven't seen this film, I highly recommend watching it. I believe it's on Z5. Right. So if you haven't seen Jhund, definitely give it a shot. Kantara, we got to talk about this. And Sandeep, I know you have a lot to say about this. So why don't you start first? And we will kind of tell you. So go ahead.
Kantara is like hands down my best theater experience this year. Even though it's not my most favorite film, but it's the best theater experience. Because there was a lot of hype around this film, and watching the trailer of the film even increased that expectation, because I remember I kept telling my people who are not in Karnataka or not in Bangalore, I used to tell my other friends that Vikram Veda is going to release, Ponniyin Selvan is going to release, but the film of this week is going to be Kantara, because you could see people talking about that film everywhere. And fortunately, we got a chance to watch what is known in Bangalore as the industry premiere, which happens a day prior to the film's release overall. So it was a night show the film came out on a Thursday, so it was probably Wednesday night or something. You might have seen a video going viral where Rakshit Shetty runs from the back of the audience, the back of the theater, and he jumps onto Rishabh to congratulate him. It was that auditorium from where we watched it, and man, the crowd kept going
This was in
berserk.
Bangalore?
This was in Bangalore.
Bangalore, okay.
It was amazing to watch that film there in the theater, and this is a community viewing experience. This is why people like us fall in love with films in the first place, right? Because we started watching it in theaters. And when it's a good film and the entire theater is just playing to the tune of that, it's something that no OTT, nothing else can compare to it. And just the so I'll just uh, what happened with the film as we started watching it is that it went into places where the trailer didn't prepare us for. Like, that the Bhutakola is going to come at a point of time, and he's going to put on that attire and all. But the way they have designed the entire story, right? If you notice the film, because again, I have dreams of screenwriting, so I look at things that way, and it's so well rounded. If you notice, it starts with a father telling his son a story of uh, the origin story of how the
Absolutely. Yes. It's nicely
right?
set up.
It starts from there. Then again, in the third act, you have another father telling his son the same story, but from a different perspective, where he says, "We lost everything to a stone." And the first father, actually, initially, he sets it up saying, "It's our God, and we gave the Lord to the person so that and all of that." And in this, if I can call it the outer loop, there is an inner loop as well, because once Rishabh's father, earlier Rishabh, who plays the father character, finishes that story, the gap between his disappearance and the Kambala, or the festival that happens, the race, bullock race happens. There, the gap between those 20 years is filled by one villager telling the story to another villager who does not know what has happened in the 20 years. The guy who keeps getting hit. And if you notice, again, at the end of the film ends with that same villager narrating it to his son. That's the last scene of the film, where he completes the story after the climax dance. So that's some well-rounded storytelling. And then the entire experience, and Rishabh Shetty has just given it his everything. Here you can
Absolutely.
actually call it a one-man show. I mean, not taking anything away from the other performers. There are people like Kishore who has done an equally good role playing the Vishnu to his Shiva and all of that. But I mean, from conception, writer, director, and the actor in him. So it's what could be called a one-man show. And when he says that it is the story of his people, his land, he has lived it. And this life itself has prepared him to finally make this movie. The screenplay was probably being written as he grew up, because these are things that he has seen all around him. So you see the conviction, you see the love, and the amount of preparation that goes into doing that Bhutapala, that when he puts up that guitar and he gives it everything, you can almost feel that he is possessed. Now, which is why the post Kantara hit talk of this giving it a religion angle and all those discussions sounded a little odd to me, because I never saw it as a religion or
Neither did I. Yeah.
talking about one religion kind of film. It's culture. It's where he comes from. He's presenting his traditions, his culture, and what a way to present it. And the budget is nowhere close to any big budget film. Even from Kannada industry, if you consider, it's nowhere close to what KGF was made on. But uh, within that, he makes the production quality. Everything looks rich. You can see that the best technical expertise has gone into making of the film. The background score, the music, controversial now, but it all adds to that experience. So yeah, it was just the best experience in theater for me. And for anybody who's going to watch the film on Prime for the first time, after listening to this podcast, the Kantara on Prime and the Kantara I'm talking about, or all of us will talk about who have seen it in theater, is not the same film. Because I watched it again for the third time once it came out on Prime, and take away that score and the two key sequences of the film don't hold.
It's a big screen film, no doubt. I think this is a film that we can truly call, in a mightily overused word, hypnotic. It is hypnotic. The score, the visuals, the colors, Rishabh Shetty's energy, the whole vibe of it, the howling or screaming, what you want to call it. That's also, it plays into the whole vibe of that movie. And you touched on this, Sandeep. So I'll just quickly mention it again. But you already mentioned this. It's scripted so well. I mean, at the beginning there is a scene between Shiva's father and Shiva, where they're talking about the land. And his dad is telling him how they aren't really entitled to that land, and that's essentially the gist of the film. And so it's nicely set up from that initial scene. And again, it goes back to how well that the script has been written, because it's really done in a classical fashion, where you're setting it up and then slowly, kind of like a barn, you're essentially unspooling it. The background score was so trippy. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, the whole action sequence, where they're stoned, and but I think the most of the high comes from the background music more than from the pot. So it's crazy. I mean, it's I really loved that action scene. And Kantara is special. I think, like you said, I mean, you could tell from after you had watched it the first time that this is something special and it's going to go on and become huge. But again, this thing has also like mushroomed like crazy. I mean, it's it's now probably only second to RRR in terms of, has it overtaken Brahmastra?
No,
Cumulative?
not yet.
Okay. What? How much did Brahmastra collect, by the way?
So actually, it has overtaken. So KGF has done 970 CR, RRR 869, Kantara 346, Brahmastra 306.
See, that's what I thought. Yeah. And one thing, I don't know, Brahmastra, we are not going to talk about on this podcast. But, one thing about Brahmastra also was onto something, but I don't think, they really got there. That was my reaction. So, it didn't really work for me. For some people, it did.
So for Kantara, I actually don't have anything much to add. For me, it was a good experience and a good movie. But how I came to know about Kantara was, so it released during that week, and I was not at all aware about this movie. Okay, so during my college, back in my MBA days, so we had this club, movie club in our college, which I used to run, and we have this WhatsApp group called K Pandit. So I only posted, or someone posted, Prabhas reviewed the film, and he was talking about it. I think so. It was the first day of the movie or the second day, and I posted it asking someone, has anyone seen it? And probably within 2-3 days, the way it started picking up, and on Book My Show also I saw it has over 95% likes, and I thought, ये क्या है, पिक्चर देखे. फिर मुझे पता चला कि राइटर राज शेट्टी और ऋषभ शेट्टी दोनों की 2 हफ्ते पहले मैंने पिक्चर देखी थी, गरुड़ा गमना ऋषभा वाहना.
Tremendous film. I love that film. Yeah.
So I was like कि देखनी तो पड़ेगी, इतने अच्छे रिव्यू आए, एक्टर भी ऋषभ है, राइटर राज है, and reviews are also good. So I went out and watched it, and I'm glad I watched it before the hype. Probably I would have expected a lot, but I think so. It was a fairly good affair, and obviously people, I don't know यार, सब लोग criticize कुछ ना कुछ कर ही लेते हैं, कुछ ना कुछ, मतलब
the thing is,
जैसे ये पिक्चर में क्या हुआ, तो I also felt it, but I thought like the way women were treated, but that is what the setting is, right? That is what the reality is. So अब वो लोग स्टोन हो रहे हैं, तो उसको अच्छे वे में दिखाए, तो जरूरी थोड़ी कि ग्लैमराइज कर रहे हैं, या the way women were being treated. So unfortunately, that's the reality. So now, if a terrorist is doing a bomb blast, or say a James Bond is probably stealing cars, so is that right or a wrong thing? I don't know. मतलब हर चीज कैसे justify कर सकते हैं जो है
Also, it's
मतलब
a
reality.
journey of a flawed
Yeah,
character,
yeah,
right?
right, right, right.
He's a bad guy.
Absolutely.
He's not a good guy at
Yes,
all to start with.
It's an
yes,
arc. Yeah.
yes, yes,
It's an
yes.
arc.
Right.
Yeah, see, we live in times when criticism, valid and baseless, both garners attention. So much of that has to do with that as well. I mean, valid criticism is always welcome. I mean, that should be there because that's what a meaningful discourse has to take place. But there is a lot of baseless criticism as well. So, but I mean, with that something that we might feel baseless, someone else might say, hey, it's valid. So it's again a debate
Yeah,
that it's
yeah,
worth
yeah.
I
having.
think it's perspective, just that I look at it this way, that it's a bad guy's arc
Right,
towards
right, right.
becoming good person. So the things that he did, including the way he treats women, are bad, of course. Because I
Yes,
look at him
no
as
one's
a bad
denying
guy at
that.
that
Right.
point of time. He's not good at
If-
all.
Even I looked at it that way. Now if you watch Sultan Mirza on screen, you really like you are blown away by him. Like somehow deep in your heart, you'd probably like to meet him, talk to him. Probably if you get a chance, be Sultan Mirza also, for a day or two. So this is cinema.
You got to suspend belief once in a while.
Yeah.
It's like going to a magic show and saying, nah, I don't think that's logical.
Yeah.
Just to complete the Kantara experience, I'll tell you a surreal thing about Kantara, but I'm giving you a disclaimer. You can edit it out. Uh, so the most surreal thing that happened during the film was that because it's an industry show, but you don't know who has come in later on. You have walked in, and then actors and other people have come later once the theater lights are dim and all of that. So you are already in this world. You're seeing Shiva and you're seeing his friends, Rampa and these other characters, and you're already engrossed in the world, right? And it's such engaging filmmaking. So when I came out in the interval, the film is going on in my head. Okay, so I walk into the restroom. Okay, and the lineup of the film is literally lined up. These people that you, because you are still in that world, and it's suddenly a sudden experience. Oh, okay, we are in the world of Kantara.
Yeah, crazy things happen. Yeah. I have, actually been to the part of town that this was shot in because my wife is from that area. And actually, my wife's mother. So, we have traveled there and we have actually seen that Panjurli and all those coal booths and things. So it was great, to see that on screen. And I had a bit of an idea about this. I'm not by no means an expert in that, but it was cool. I mean, the way that he has shot that, and especially those two, lingering shots, where Panjurli like just kind of creeps up on him, and that huge scream was amazing. So the next movie, I wanted to talk about is Me Vasantrao. This is a Marathi film that came earlier this year. I believe Amey and I have seen this. Have you guys seen this movie?
Right.
Okay, so I highly recommend watching this film. In some aspects, this is the film of the year for me. And I'll tell you why. So just without giving out too much about the film, it's essentially a biopic of the legendary Marathi classical vocalist Vasantrao Deshpande. And you guys might know his grandson, Rahul Deshpande, who's also a vocalist, and he also does a lot of unplugged sessions on YouTube. He incidentally plays Vasantrao Deshpande in the film. It's a film that's produced by him as well, and he's given the music as well. Film special not only as a tremendous, biopic, but also as an incredibly well-told story of the avant-garde, making a mark in face of orthodoxy and its custodians. And I think that particular aspect of the film is which I was really impressed by, because, there are many people in life, who will make their mark very late in their careers. But that's because, they choose to not just take the less traveled path, but because they're not as orthodox or they're not as purist, so it's going to take time for them to establish their kind of cred and go from there. And I think Me Vasantrao really nails hits the nail on the head with this particular aspect. Another thing that stands out about Me Vasantrao is that, when you're watching that film, the film's so immersive that you forget that it's a biopic of a legendary singer. It floats just as well, the film, the story, as a story of a singer, who's trying to make it very late in his career, like I said. So it's also a very good picture. It's also a very good film just on the basis of that. So even if you strip away the part of the biopic part, even then the film floats just as well. It has terrific music. The music is the backbone of a film, as you might expect. And special mention for one of the songs from the film. It's a Marathi song. It's Punava Ratisa. And it's one of the year's standout moments in cinema for me. This is just wow on many different levels. It's the kind of sequence where you can sit down and break down its, different things, the aesthetic, the storytelling, the production design, and everything for at least an hour. So I would highly recommend watching this film. And I don't want to talk too much about it because I really want people to enjoy this film instead of going all critiquey on it and trying to divulge too much about it. But I think it's a great film. I highly recommend watching this film. It's a slow burn. So if that's not something that is your cup of tea, maybe not, but do check it out. And it has great music. And it's directed and written by Nipun Dharmadikari. And it's co-written by Upendra Sidhay, who in fact, as it so happens that I just recorded the last episode with him on Mumbai Meri Jaan. He was the co-writer of that film as well. But check it out. Me Vasantrao, I really loved the film. It has great music. And it's very different. It's very different. And if you want to read more about the film before you watch the film, if that's how you roll, that's fine. You can check out Bharadwaj Rangan's review or watch his review. I think he reviewed that film as well.
It's his favorite film of the year.
Oh, okay. Did he say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He went on to say that. It's his favorite film of the year.
Yes. This is the movie of the year for me in many aspects. I wouldn't be so categorically, inclined to say that it's the movie of the year. But it's a very different film. I think you guys, once you watch the film, you will realize, especially in terms of the biopics that we consumers of Hindi cinema for most of the time are used to. So do check it out. Amey, you want to share your thoughts?
By the way, just a question. So is it like in any way similar to Disciple? When
Not
you
at all.
talk about it
Not at all.
being a slow burn.
A Disciple was more of a festival film, and it's done in the makeup is very different. So in terms of you look at the makeup of the movie, this is fairly a commercial film. I mean, it has many songs and everything. But I just think that Nipun is a very different and a special storyteller. He did a film a few years ago, Marathi film called Baap Janma. It starred Sachin Khedekar, and it streams on Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime.
Yes. So if you want to watch that film as well, and he's a very different kind of, he comes from, Marathi theater. And so he has a different sensibilities and everything. And I see a lot of the young Mahesh Manjrekar in him, because I think they come from with similar tools, so to speak, in terms of the cinematic universe. So check it out. Amey, you want to share your thoughts?
What really stood out for me in the film was the fact that despite it being a biopic on such a legendary person, he was distilled into being a human being. It felt as though the struggles that he's facing are my own, or I'm sure that every viewer must have felt that he wasn't glorified or he wasn't a hero worshipped, but he was shown as a person that he was for all his flaws and fabulous things. I think that was something that really stood out for me in the film. And besides that, I think you have covered all other points. The music is splendid, and I think special mention to Rahul Deshpande for doing a fabulous job as in that role. I never expected that he would come out that great as an actor, given the fact that he's into classical singing and all that. But I think he did a tremendous job in portraying, and I think it's a great tribute from his side to someone who has been a legend in his family. So yeah, it really moved me, the whole experience of watching that film.
For sure. Next one is a recent film, Monica, Oh My Darling. This was a fun film. I really loved it, enjoyed it. In fact, I'm planning on watching it again. But such a nice film. It's many people have said that it's much like a Sri Ram Raghavan film. Maybe perhaps because the writer is Yogesh Chandekar, who also co-wrote Andhadhun. It's funny. It's quite a thrill ride. There are just a hoot of nods and winks to classic films, to directors and all that. But this was a fun film. And I think this is the kind of film that, we get a lot of these kind of films that kind of start out really well, but they suddenly start to meander. And then towards the end, they become a drag. And Monica, Oh My Darling was one of those that, you thought, hey, maybe, it could have gone on for 15 more minutes and I would have watched it. So I think that's what is so special about this film. I loved it. And I thought Radhika Apte was tremendous in this. It's finally good that she's making her Netflix debut, but, but she was great. And but everybody was great. Sikandar Kher, how good was he? I mean, I thought, he's a criminally underutilized actor. He was good. Rajkumar Rao was great. The guy who played Vijay, right? That's his name? No, the accountant guy. Yeah, he was tremendous too. Arvind. Sorry, not Vijay.
Arvind.
Yeah. It's a fun movie. And what songs? Fun songs, just like the movie.
Solid album. The album by Achint and Varun Grover is a solid one.
Yes, definitely.
मजा आ गया गाने सुन के मजा आ जाते हैं.
Yes, definitely.
So fun fact, I was watching this video of how they were going to make these songs. So the singers of these songs were the guys who used to sing or have been singing Asha Bhosle, Kishore Kumar songs since the last 20-30 years as part of any program or orchestra band, So that was good fun. So I also liked the movie, but let others complete. And then I just have a small question, with respect to the movie. So I'll just ask you guys out.
Sure. You guys want to add anything else, Sandeep and Amey?
Yeah, so it was a film made by a Hindi film buff for Hindi film buffs, I believe. So anybody who has told me that the film doesn't work for me, and I know that they are not like quote cinephiles, I don't mind because I know where it is coming from. Because when I watched the film, also I was watching it with people who were looking at me like I have lost my mind because I was laughing at that Prince Summer, the hotel being named as Prince Summer. I mean, that was just tribute to Jewel Thief and to Goldie Anand, and there are things like at every stage there is some callback to some Hindi film in the past. It's like it's his own universe that he has created within it. But yeah, I was satiated by that film. I just loved right from the songs, and Anirudh mentioned about it. And one of my friends actually took the effort of creating an elaborate post on Instagram, which was later shared by Vasan Bala, who said we should have done it, and thanks for you to doing it. So Cinema by and Beyond Karke, she has prepared a list of all these singers who have actually sung these songs, and that was a very good touch in my opinion, because it completely brought back that retro feel that he was going for. And it's a crazy ride, and it's noir. You see the typical noir hero always one frame away from misery, right? And Rajkumar Rao plays it best. And even the other actors, I mean, you can't point out to an actor and say that they brought down the script because of their presence. Everybody was just elevating it, because if you look at the story, this is not a story driven film. Like they say, the storytelling is not always about the story. Sometimes it's also about the telling, and this is about that. And Sikandar Kher and another of my favorite actors from the Tamil industry, Bhagavati Perumal, or Bugs as we know him as, and that role, that is that moment where they say accountant se kaun affair rakhta hai, and it's like accountant ko halke mein mat le. That he just brings his own beautiful and subtle touches, like they have that communication where no words are exchanged. They're standing far
Yeah.
away and
Right.
they are pointing, to go to the terrace, and he does something like that. And then Rajkumar Rao just mouths an expletive and he says, "Come to the terrace."
One-liners are awesome, man. Yeah. I remember that
Small,
there's
small.
one scene when Arvind goes like, "यार मेरे को डर लग रहा है." I remember Rajkumar Rao says, "डर लग रहा है मतलब मेरा क्या रोज का है?"
Uh, that was
Hilarious
fun.
stuff.
And it says,
Hilarious.
yeah, physics serial killer nahi ho. Or very small moments, like he gives his details to that the cop, and he says only not after 9 or something. I'm a family man, and he says so. All of that was brilliant, and like you rightly mentioned, Radhika Apte playing. The, to me, it was more like the kind of cop that Danny played in a couple of the 80 films, the kind of a weird cop who has these smart one-liners, because nobody
Quirks and yeah.
expected Danny to play that, right? I think it was Jhund, Ittefaq, I believe.
Yes.
So a couple of films where he has done that, and that was fun. And Huma Qureshi and her moment with Rajkumar Rao, that fight. I mean, how good was it? Uh, so yeah, all in all, I love that.
Yeah. The nods are like crazy. I mean, it's like nod every second almost. And, I just realized this, I was talking with my wife and she said, even the scene where, Rajkumar Rao is kind of fighting for his life, from the top, that's actually pretty much like a self-referential thing to Trapped, because he does something like that in Trapped as well, which I didn't realize first. But yeah, I mean, now that she mentioned it, I thought, you're absolutely right. that
Right.
is
They just changed the camera angle from front to back, and it's the scene from Trapped. Yeah, now that you say, yeah, right, that's right.
So
And
it
the
was,
song, how brilliant was it? First Pe Khade, that goes so.
that was tremendous song.
It's
And
a very
that
Hemant
guy
Kumar
really
kind of
sounds like
song.
Hemant Kumar, man. Oh my God. I mean, he sounds like Hemant Kumar, no doubt about it. It's like not, you can, it's one of those, I don't want to call it imitations. It's one of those, it's not even a cover, but it's one of those songs, where you cannot tell that this is somebody impersonating or, doing an impression of Hemant Kumar.
Yeah,
It's
he
that
doesn't
good.
mimic it.
Exactly. Right.
Like,
Right.
I mean, I don't know how to put it, but he's not mimicking it.
I
He
know what you're
just
saying. Right. He's not trying to do like a cover of that, but he's trying to do like
yeah.
his own version of it. But he's so good at it that it comes off like sounding like Hemant Kumar. So it's crazy. That song especially. Yeah, the music was.
I think there's also a Bazigar tribute in the film where Rajkumar Rao eats up the piece of paper.
Yes. So the homages and the nods and the winks are just crazy. Yeah, I think someone did a small Twitter thread on that as well. But I'm sure like there are like so many in it that you gotta sit down again and kind of watch the whole film again. But it's crazy. So that was that. Great, nice little film. Finally, let's talk about Laal Singh Chaddha.
So Laal Singh Chaddha for me probably is the film of the year because of the response it got. You tend to support the underdogs, and I'm sure probably this movie will age really well. And the music, boss, the album, I don't know, it's probably the best album this year, or I don't know, I don't remember, probably in last 2 3 years. The music was incredible and बहुत ही मजा है मुझे तो एक्चुअली ट्रेलर थोड़ा बेकार लगा था बिकॉज ऑफ द आमिर खान डूइंग but when I watched the movie I really liked him and the kid as well. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was Lal Singh Chaddha became what Bharat couldn't do. Bharat was a journey of a man and a nation together. But for me, Lal Singh Chaddha was the journey of a man and a nation together with a love story imbibed into it. So I think so. Ode to My Father.
Let me
is
pause you for a
again-
minute, Anirudh. Are you by any chance suggesting that Amir Khan is a greater actor than Salman Khan?
So okay. One big disclaimer. I'm a huge Salman fan. Okay,
No,
so
I don't miss to. I don't mean to diss any Salman fans or anything like that. But I just like to make fun
so
of
so
Salman
so
Khan when I get a
so
chance.
so so I am a huge Salman fan, and I wanted Bharat to be what Ode to My Father was, and I thought Ode to My Father was inspired from Forrest Gump, because I saw Forrest Gump, then I saw Ode to My Father, and I thought Bharat could have done incredibly well. The kind of Bajrangi Bhaijaan template, and Salman could have pulled it off. But Salman भाई आजकल बहुत आलसी हो गए, खुद कुछ नहीं कर रहे. मतलब as a fan, I'm irritated. But Lal Singh Chaddha did that for me, and the payoff for me was good. Everyone when they talk about the film, they say they've easily left out a lot of India's past, but essentially it was a love story, right? Like Gajni was essentially a love story. Lal Singh Chaddha was also a love story, if you think about it. And when Amir also talks about it, or say Forrest Gump is also essentially a love story, but it's the journey of a man and a nation together. And the music, well, everything I thought was pitch perfect. I went to see that movie alone. I generally watch all the movies with my wife, and I had a fight with my wife, and then I watched that movie, and I loved it even more.
That's a good story, Anirudh. Yeah, I'll tell you my impression of Lal Singh Chaddha. I watched it late, like yeah, I told you, I just watched it last month on Netflix. The thing for me was that my I had my expectations low because based on the trailer, the initial impression that I gathered was that it looked to me like Amir Khan was essentially doing an extension of his part in PK. And for that, for me was a bit put off because I was expecting so much more from Amir Khan, and like you do from every film of his, where he literally like reinvents himself and does something for the first time. So I thought, hey, this looks very similar to PK. What's that's new that is bringing to the table this time? But the thing that I actually loved about this film, Lal Singh Chaddha, was that, obviously it's based on Forrest Gump. It's an official adaptation. For Atul Kulkarni to do such a decent job with the screenplay, to adapt a hugely popular Oscar winner is something. I mean, it's usually it's not that easy of a job. And I think he did a stunning job. I mean, there's many scenes which are just right out of Forrest Gump, just like the original film. But the way that he has adapted some of this, the way that they have worked on the characterizations, even the whole bit with Mohammad Paji, which it's very far fetched. I mean, it's extremely far fetched, and some people might laugh at that character. But it's so nicely done, and it's such a hopeful way of looking at things, and it's such a positive way of looking at things, and that's what's more important, than the plausibility of such a character or so forth. So I thought that was just so nicely done. So I loved that, and the music, Anirudh, it didn't really click with me that much. I thought it had a huge Rajkumar Hirani hangover. And again, I thought maybe that is, kind of spilling over from PK. And, I started getting those kind of vibes before when I saw the trailer. But the movie wasn't bad at all. Definitely it surpassed my expectations. And maybe Amir Khan could have done that character some other way. Who knows?
Yeah. But Rajkumari angle, okay. Rajkumar Hirani's films never have like the greatest of the music, if I have to put it, or if they're not popular songs. Munna Bhai also took up, or probably it gained popularity gradually, and obviously the music was by Anu Malik, तो वो थोड़ा आ जाता है. बाद में सब शांतनु मोहित रागा. But these songs had melody, all the songs were melodious, and I don't know, the lyrics were very good, and the vibe, and especially the climax song, Tere Hawale. Uh, the whole scene, the setup, and then you hear Arijit and Shilpa Rao's voice. Uh, it
Yeah,
blew me
maybe
away.
I should listen to the jukebox again.
And when you talked about the Mohammad Paji scene, I could actually believe it could happen. I could connect it to say Bajrangi Bhaijaan. See, Pawan was also a very innocent character. Permission leke jayenge. It's not possible, right? But people believed it, and obviously it did wonders because of the character and how it was played, and probably the innocence of Amir Khan or say Lal Singh Chaddha in this film. It's really possible. Probably कल उठ के कोई मेरे से भी ऐसे अच्छे से बात करेगा और एकदम innocence के साथ करेगा. You might start liking that person, even Mohammed also tells him, अरे तू पागल है क्या? मुझे क्यों बचाया? ये वो वगैरह वगैरह. You know, and this whole bit about how Mona Singh used to tell Lal Singh कि कुछ भी प्रॉब्लम है तो मलेरिया. वो मलेरिया वाला पार्ट
Yeah,
भी
that was quite funny. Yeah.
yeah, so that's a good way of like uh, probably uh, putting or putting context to bad things. मलेरिया है वो एक डायलॉग भी मारता है ना, और फिर एंड में वो मोहम्मद भाई माने मजहब से मलेरिया फैलता है. Just after the 26/11 attack scene and where they are discussing mazhab se malaria.
Yeah, so I went in to watch that film. It was early morning, 6 or 7 o'clock show. That's the first show, FDFS, because again, it was more a revolt against this entire mindless boycott thing. Uh, but I went in with my expectations, right? Because Forrest Gump, when I watched it, and later on, whenever I have revisited it, it has a special place for me. I love the film, but the whole premise of Forrest Gump works only on the basis of suspension of disbelief. So you got to hang plausibility, probability, and all of that, because in an actual war field, that guy would have got shot 3 feet above his bomb. Okay, so it all hinges on you buying into that person and not necessarily what is happening with him, because that's the only way you will go along with the story, that he's running into Reagan and he's calling out Watergate and all of those things happening. It is all a suspension of disbelief. So that part did not bother me at all because I went in knowing that. My problems were with Amir in the pre-turban and pre-beard phase, where he's all wide-eyed and doing a PK and Three Idiots some weird mix of those two characters, which was overdone. Uh, you're supposed to make him simplistic, or more of you are supposed to see the character as a simpleton, which probably Forrest Gump was, but here it was borderline idiotic, because of the constant eyes wide and the it was. But in the same film, he the moment he puts on the turban and the beard, then that performance is something different. And the towards the climax, the performance that he uh, gives is one of his best. And Amir has done quite a bit of work to say that he's a good. I mean, he's established himself as an actor, but even for him, that ending portion was one of his best. But I'll tell you who got the memo of the role right, though it was the kid.
Perfect,
The kid
100%, 100%.
got the memo. He is the only one
Yeah, he
who
was
followed
really
it to the hill.
yes.
So,
And Amir gives him that space. 40 minute बाद आमिर आता है पिक्चर में.
again, for conceptualizing and all of this, I think the best part of the film is Amir, and what didn't work about the film is also Amir, which is kind of the irony about it. But it
Arena
worked
was
for
good
me,
as
and
well.
it worked for me. Even the songs and that montage where he runs around the country, that is brilliantly shot, and even the song that plays in there. Uh, Most of the film worked except for Amir's performance for around 2/3 of the film. But yeah, everything around it worked for me. I wish it had got more love, which it got on the OTT, but on the theaters, I wish it would have worked.
See, that's what we need to give Amir credit for. जब opening credits आते हैं ना, so there is this card that comes. Thanks to all the states, state government of Goa, state union territory of Goa, state government Maharashtra, Rajasthan, XYZ. he goes out there and shoots in real locations, unlike say what an Akshay Kumar does, or say what happened with Jayesh Bhai Jordar also. Jayesh Bhai Jordar I thought was a perfectly fine film, but I could see the location is fake. It's all sets. But even for that 20-second run, he went out to a different state and shoot it, and that is what Amir is all about. And unfortunately, now he's gone into his own exile, just what SRK did. I don't know when he'll come back and probably start a new movie. But obviously, this is one of his biggest disaster, if I have to put it in a simple manner. One of his biggest disaster, probably after Man or say Mangal Pandey.
Thugs of Hindustan was
Thugs
pretty
of
bad.
Hindustan, right. बट जितना थग्स ऑफ हिंदुस्तान ने पहले दिन में कमाया उससे थोड़ा 10-20 करोड़ ये पिक्चर ने पूरे लाइफ टाइम में कमाया.
Hey, guys, I just want to mention Toolsidas Jr. real quick. And I remember that Amey wanted to talk about Jersey. So I'm going to let him talk about Jersey as well. But Amey, before I hand over to you to talk about Jersey, I just will quickly mention that there is a small film on Netflix. It's called Toolsidas Jr. It's essentially a real story about a kid, who sets out to realize his dad's dream. Film's got heart. It's as much about living somebody else's unrealized dream as it is about living your dream through someone you love. So it's a very nice little film. Do check it out. It's produced by Ashutosh Govarikar. Sanjay Dutt plays a cameo in it. And it also, I believe, is Rajiv Kapoor's last film. So Rajiv Kapoor passed on, I believe, last year. And I think this is his last film. So it streams on Netflix. Check it out. It's called Toolsidas Jr. I highly recommend it. And with that, let me give it over to Amey because he really wanted to talk about Jersey.
So Jersey, again, after Gangubai, I think the second film that touched me the most this year would be Jersey. And I was again pretty sad that it didn't do well and it got delayed and stuff. And it didn't do as well as I thought that it should have. Mainly because I thought that there have been many South Indian remakes, which the same directors have made. But in this film, the director has consciously made an effort to better the storyline from what the original was. And this has been the few times when I've found a remake to be better than the original. Because
Oh, wow.
I'd seen
Okay.
yeah,
I really love
because I'd
Mani's
seen
film. I
the
haven't seen the Shahid Kapoor's version, but I'll check it out now.
yeah, same. I mean, I'd seen it just one night before I went to the theater to watch Jersey. And I saw the original, and then I went to the theaters, and I didn't expect to be blown at the scale that I was, despite having watched the original just the previous night. And I just felt that there was so many improvisations, small little uh, plot mistakes that were corrected. The storytelling was much better in this version. So I felt the director had taken a conscious effort to not just copy something scene by scene which he had made, but actually go out and make an effort to better himself. And then, of course, there was Shahid's performance, which was extraordinary. There was this kid who did a brilliant job. Then there was Mronal, who was, I think, it's such a complex character that she plays. That she's a practical woman who's right in her own place, but you can't help but hate her for some reason, despite knowing that she's right in her own way. But so I think the characters were pretty well played out, and there are some tremendous scenes. I mean, you haven't seen the film, so I won't give it out. But the interactions between the kid and Shahid, the whole thing about the transition of Shahid from being a good for nothing guy to actually realizing his dream, and then better late than never story of this underdog who makes it late in life. So I think all these things sort of really worked for me. And again, like I'm saying, that this wasn't a cut copy paste job of just translating something that is South Indian into Bollywood just to give it a better reach. But there was some effort made to sort of better the whole experience. So yeah, I thought that this film should have done a lot more better than it did. But I mean, I saw it three times in the theater. I saw Gangubai twice. I saw Jersey thrice in the theater. So yeah, it was like
Oh
brilliant for
wow!
me.
And who plays Satya Raj's role in this? Pankaj Kapoor? Is that who plays the coach?
Yes, Pankaj Kapoor.
How
Pankaj
was
Kapoor.
he? I mean, Pankaj Kapoor is always brilliant, but how was
He
he?
is brilliant as always. Brilliant as always. And I think again that proves how good an actor Shahid is, that he sort of gives a good match to Pankaj Kapoor in the scenes that they share. Like what I felt in Haider, like the way he was in the scenes that he shared with Tabu or Irfan Khan, like they are brilliant actors in their own right. And uh, a young guy like Shahid, I mean, matching or giving an effort to sort of match up to their performance, I think is commendable from his side.
Amey, could you share a non-spoiler moment from the Hindi jersey that you thought was better improvised than the Telugu one?
I think if you have seen the Telugu version, the whole spoiler is given pre-interval, like you know what is happening with that guy. But in this film, the entire thing is revealed towards the end. Till the end, we do not know why or what has driven him to give up cricket.
Okay.
So I think that, and plus the whole the small scenes, dialogues, the way they have been again improvised and improved upon. I think the moments of Shahid and the kid in the Bollywood version were much better than what they were in the South. Like they really tear you up in some places. The way the whole bond that the two of them share. So I think that was
No, I got to watch this film.
quite
Yeah,
brilliantly done.
I'm all game to watch the same director making his film in a very different way. So I would love to watch. It's the same director, right? It's the
Yes,
original
it's
guy.
the same
Okay.
director.
So I'll check it out. This one is also on Netflix.
I've been like, yes, Netflix.
Okay.
I've been telling everyone I'm meeting since I've seen the movie to please go and watch it as soon as possible.
Okay.
Because just because of the reason that it didn't do so well, and I felt really bad for that.
Yeah, Shahid's last few films haven't
So
done well,
yeah,
right? I mean, he is too good of an actor. For
yeah.
that.
Shahid is
Kabir Singh I
probably
think did well, but
Shahid is probably the actor who will never get his due, and he won't probably
Why do you
get,
say that?
he's never gotten his due. He's a fantastic actor,
But
phenomenal
he did
actor.
get accolades in Urta Punjab and.
But finally,
Either-
the movies have to do
Either-
the numbers. Now, when you think about the top 5 actors of the generation or the younger generation, no one thinks about, say, Shahid Kapoor, from his debut, say, Ishq Vishk. I love Fida, Fida, what a movie. And the climax scene where Shahid shoots both of them. Solid. So I've always loved Shahid, but unfortunately, the movie which I did not per se like did massively well for him. And both the movies, Padmavat and Kabir Singh, and the movies that must have done commercially well. When I'm talking about finally, एक्टर को काम कब मिलेगा, पैसा कमाओ और लाओ, वरना फिर वही हो जाएगा सीन. So शायद if you just think about it, Varun Dhawan, Ranbir, Vicky, Shahid is nowhere if you think about it. So I feel bad for him. I hope he'll have to consistently churn out good movies that do the numbers as well, and probably then we can see him rolling.
Yeah, he's too good of an actor to go unnoticed. I mean, he's not really going unnoticed, but to be underappreciated. I wonder what's lined up for him. I don't know. I'm not too sure what's coming up.
Yeah, even I'm not sure.
But
so before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask all of you guys one question. So, which is the movie that you guys are particularly looking forward to, Indian film, in the next probably 1 year or say 6 months? Himanshu or Sandeep, probably anyone.
For me, it's pretty clear right now. At this particular moment, I'm looking forward to Merry Christmas.
Oh, Circus.
Merry Christmas. Sriram Raghavan's new film.
Oh, okay. Katrina.
Katrina and Vijay Sethupathi.
I'm looking forward to Jawan. I think the teaser is out. I think it looks different than what SRK usually does. So I think I'm really waiting for that.
Yeah, I think SRK is finally getting to do what he has always wanted to do, which is action films. So, he's with Pathaan and Jawan. I think he has finally taken that plunge, because maybe...
And then there's Donkey also.
Yes. But is Donkey an action film, though? I think that's more like a drama, right?
It's a journey.
Not an action film,
right.
but yeah.
Right. But with Pathaan and Jawan, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, because I think that's what he really craves. And that's, I have this theory that SRK has always kind of, I don't want to use the word modeled, but he has always looked up to or admired Tom Cruise. And, he has always kind of, fancied himself in a similar position when it comes to Hindi cinema. And I think that's why, he kind of thinks somewhere that he deserves his Mission Impossible. He deserves his kind of an action blockbuster. And I think he will be very good at that. I think because his natural bent has always been athletic and everything. He's also had some health issues with the back and everything. But, I think he would be very good with action. So let's see how Jawan and Pathaan kind of... He tried to did that once before, I think, in One Tuka 4, which was, which was something like this, but not really like a full-fledged action thriller.
But he's done some really good action, like say from comedy action in Badshah to Mehuna, the
yes.
whole entry sequence,
yes.
And then that chase, where they come out watching Sholay, and then he chases.
Oh yes, yes. I love those films. Yeah.
It was a superb action set piece, and then Dawn 1 and Dawn 2. I think Dawn 2 is probably the slickest action film ever made in India. And the way they've performed action, and it doesn't even look fake. So I think so. He's been into that action group, but वो फिर करते रहते हैं dramas और अपने दूसरी movies. So he never got that tag. And recently, I think so, in Red Sea Film Festival, he said that for the next 10 years, I just want to do Mission Impossible-ish kind of action film.
I think so. Did he say that? Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the impression that I always got. So I guess my suspicion has been right.
So, Sandeep, which movie are you looking forward to?
Think of anything off the top of my head, but there's Rakshit Shetty's Richard Anthony that might come out in 2023, which is a prequel to Ulidavaru Kandante, if any of you have watched that. Is one of the earliest movies that started this Kannada wave, along with Lucia. So it's a prequel to that character, to that film, and it takes a character from that film, the most popular character, which was played by Rakshit himself. So whenever Richard Anthony comes out, Pathaan, I'm actually looking forward to. I've not been a very big SRK fan, but him doing action is something I would want to see. So Pathaan is something I'm really looking forward to. I hope it works for him and we see him come back. And what better than to see him come back with action? Jawan, I'm not very excited about, because I have not been a fan of the Attlee films, and I know there is a particular template and a way that Attlee does things. And from what I've heard of Jawan, looks to be the similar template. So I am not excited about it. I'm more excited to see how Pathaan does and how this happens. And if the sequel to Indian comes out in 2023, then yeah.
That's definitely there. One more thing I want to add about Pathaan real quickly is that it's not only the war team, in the sense that the production studio, director, and Sridhar Raghavan is writing it, but the dialogues are done by Abbas Tyrewala, who's a great writer. I love Abbas Tyrewala. So that's also one thing. Yeah, Munna Bhai, Maqbool, he has done all
Right.
those. So, I'm really looking forward to that. How about you, Anirudh? Which movie are you looking forward to?
So I am looking forward to Circus, and I'm glad that I did not like the trailer,
On that note, guys, this was great. I know we went way overboard with the time, so I apologize for that. But I hope you guys had fun. I
A lot
certainly
of fun.
had enjoyed, chatting with you guys and hearing your thoughts. This is great. We should do this more often. Let's see. Sometime maybe we should do this once every 2 months or something like that.
It was great fun, Himanshu, and Anirudh and Amey as well. It was a fun chat.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
realize what time it is.
सॉलिड फन थैंक्स यार हिमांशु मतलब मुझे
Thank you,
आप लोग
guys.
जितना
Thank
नॉलेज
you.
भी नहीं है टेक्निकलिटी भी नहीं है बट आई एम ग्लैड आई कुड जस्ट
No,
sit
no, man.
around
We are
and
we are
chat
we are
with you.
all essentially movie lovers here. Nobody's
Yeah, 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 yeah,
no,
yeah.
we're just friends chatting about movies that we love so
Right.
much. So, thank you so much, guys. If you liked the episode, do share this episode on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, and do subscribe to the pod wherever you listen to your pods. And please do rate and review the podcast. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at loveofcinemasf8. Feel free to reach out there or by email with your comments, feedback, and suggestions. You can find my email in the episode notes. That's the episode. This is Himanshu signing off. And as always, thank you for listening to the Love of Cinema podcast.